Sentence diagramming. Why bother? Once upon a time, students went to school to learn the basic skills necessary for reading and writing, stuff like phonics, vocabulary, and grammar. In the feel-good era of the 60s, and sometimes before, professors of education and graduate students decided for a variety of reasons to put the cart before the horse and to suggest that public education should primarily focus on improving students' self-esteem and on developing higher level or critical thinking skills. The basics necessary for success, they argued, would somehow materialize automatically in the process. The goals of these reformers may have been admirable, but the resulting chaos was not. It was as if the distribution of knowledge in the public schools was now controlled by witches. Books were written, programs and evaluations were developed, professorial careers were launched, and as a result, Siegfried Engelmann of the University of Oregon says students were subjected to a plethora of theoretical academic concepts and methods which were seldom pre-tested and rarely challenged, and which amounted to nothing less than academic child abuse. And what were the results? Nationwide, reading levels decreased, writing skills diminished, America's children fell behind most of the civilized world in academic achievement, and the anticipated new age of joy in the classroom never materialized, and students' self-esteem levels tanked. Now, like a breath of fresh air, what was so long considered passé is new again. The Common Core agenda, primarily a back-to-basics movement, concentrates on the fundamentals of and evidence of what makes stuff work. Students receive the tools they require to be creative and productive, and student self-esteem seems to be on the rise. Simply put, knowing the basics, understanding structure of what works and what doesn't and why, empowers students and makes them feel competent and smart. So what does diagramming sentences teach us beyond the skill of learning to diagram sentences? Quite a bit, as it turns out. When we take a sentence apart and put it back together, we interact with sentences in a whole other way, and we focus more acutely on the intricacies of our language. We discover how sentences work, and we learn to analyze and solve puzzles. It's fun. Best of all, the skills of analysis and logic necessary to diagram sentences are transferable to other aspects of our lives. Kitty Burns-Flory, author of Sister Bernadette's Barking Dog, a humorous book on the joys of sentence diagramming, tells us George Orwell once remarked that clarifying the way we use language makes us better thinkers. If we think logically, if we understand the power and structure of sentences, we're less likely to be bamboozled by those who would manipulate us with language. Or, as George Orwell remarked, make sure your writing is simple and clear. Then, when you make a stupid remark, its stupidity will be obvious even to yourself. Sentence diagramming, the basics. How to diagram a sentence. We start with the key elements. The subject. The subject tells us what the sentence is about, and the verb. The verb tells us what the subject is doing, or if the subject is being or existing. Both the subject and the verb are put on the baseline and are separated by a bisecting line. Here's an example of how to diagram a simple subject and main verb. Here we have two sentences. Crickets chirp, and I am. Our main verb is chirp in the first sentence. Which makes the subject crickets. In the second sentence, our main verb is a be verb. It's the first person singular of to be, I am. And the subject is I. Diagramming them, we start with a baseline. We divide the subject from the main verb with a bisecting line which goes through the baseline. We do that in both cases. The subject in the first sentence is crickets. We capitalize that since it's the first word in the sentence. And the main verb is chirp. In the second sentence, our subject is I, and our main verb is am. If the sentence has an action verb, it might be followed on the baseline by a direct object, in which case we call the verb a transitive verb. If there's no direct object, the action verb is called an intransitive verb. The direct object is separated from the action verb by a vertical line which does not bisect the baseline. Our example sentence is John likes pizza. We have our main verb, which is an action verb, likes. And since we have a direct object, we're going to call this a transitive verb. Our subject is John. And our object is pizza. So we diagram it as follows. We have our baseline. We have a bisecting line to separate the subject from the verb. And we have a vertical line which goes down to the baseline but does not go through it. John is our subject. Likes is our transitive action verb. And pizza is our object. If, on the other hand, the sentence has a linking verb instead of an action verb, most often a form of the verb to be, it will be followed on the baseline by a subject complement. A subject complement will be either a predicate nominative, predicate noun, which simply restates what the subject is. For example, Eileen is a monkey, or a predicate adjective. Eileen is hungry, which describes or modifies the subject like any other adjective. The subject complement is separated from the linking verb by a slanted line. Here we have two sentences with subject complements. In the first sentence, Eileen is a monkey. The subject complement is a noun, restating what Eileen is. In the second sentence, Eileen was happy. Our subject complement is an adjective. In both cases, notice the slanted line which indicates that the subject complement, either the predicate nominative or the predicate adjective, refers back to the subject. Our main verb is a present tense of the verb to be, third person, is. Our subject is Eileen. The subject complement is a noun, monkey. We diagram it by drawing our baseline, bisecting line, and then a slanted line showing that we have a subject complement. Our subject is Eileen. Our verb is The linking verb is be verb. And our subject complement is a predicate nominative or predicate noun, monkey. So let's go ahead and code this. Our verb is a linking verb, past tense of to be in the third person. He was, she was, it was. Our subject, of course, is Eileen. And our subject complement in this case is an adjective. Happy. We diagram it the same way. Note the slanted line showing that our subject complement refers back to our subject, which is again Eileen. The verb is was, and our predicate adjective is happy. There are two types of modifiers: adjectives, which modify or describe nouns, for example, subjects and objects, and adverbs, which modify or describe verbs, adjectives, and occasionally other adverbs. Both adjectives and adverbs are placed on slanted lines beneath the words they are modifying. In this sentence, Eileen's dog wags its tail often. Our main verb is the action in the sentence, an action verb, wags. And since we're going to have a direct object, we're going to call that a transitive verb. Our subject is dog. And our object is tail. Everything else is modifiers. Eileen's functions as an adjective, and it tells us which dog. It's Eileen's dog. So instead of drawing a person, we just put the ADJ here because Eileen's functioning as an adjective. And its is modifying tail. Which tail? Its tail, ADJ. And over here we have our adverb. Remember, adverbs tell when, where, why, in what manner, and to what extent. This would be to what extent, often. So we put A, D, V here. The diagram is, again, we start with our baseline, our bisecting line. We have a direct object, so we're going to draw a vertical line straight up like that. Well, let's go ahead and put our lines for our modifiers. We're going to have our subject is going to be modified, our verb is going to be modified, and our object is going to be modified. So we draw slanted lines under all three of them. Our subject is dog. Our main verb is wags, and our object is, what does it wag? It wags tail. Now our modifiers. Okay, Eileen's, the word Eileen's is a possessive noun which is functioning as an adjective. And tail is being modified by a possessive pronoun. Its tail. Also an adjective. And we have the adverb often. And to what extent does she wag her tail? Often. Remember, adverbs tell when, where, why, in what manner, and to what extent. Sometimes we leave understood words out of our sentences, which we diagram by enclosing the understood word in parentheses, or sometimes allowing an X to hold the place. We can also diagram questions. For example, which house is yours? Or do you want ice cream? Questions require us to rearrange the order of the words in our diagram. Now on the left-hand side here we have an imperative sentence. Go away. Our verb is go. And away we know is an adverb because adverbs tell when, where, why, in what manner, and to what extent. This is telling us where. So we have an adverb here. We diagram it. We separate our subject from our verb with our bisecting line. Our verb is the action in the sentence, the first word in the sentence, so it's capitalized, go. And we have the adverb, away. Now, the subject of the sentence is simply understood. You go away. Some people like to just put an X there. And you can do either, but I like to make it absolutely clear who we're talking to. So the understood word is you. I put it in parentheses. Now, on the right-hand side, we have some questions, and they require a little manipulation of our sentences. Our verb in this sentence is going. We have the helping verb here, the be verb is. And going. They're separated. We expect that to happen in a question. What is our subject? Our subject is she. And where is an adverb, adv over where. And we diagram it as follows. Our subject is she. It's not the first word in the sentence, so we won't capitalize it. She is going, and our adverb is where. And since that is the first word in the sentence, we make sure that's capitalized. Underneath here we have several more examples. So our main verb in this one is also two-word verb, helping verb do, and our main action verb, like. Our subject is you, and our object is ice cream. Diagrammed as follows. Our subject is you. Our verb is do, like, and ice cream. It's a compound noun, so we keep it together on the same line there. Do you like ice cream? You do like ice cream. Next question. Our main verb is using. Our helping verb, again, is a past tense of the verb to be. We're using. And our subject is you. We're using what? Using phone. So that'll be our object. Adjective is modifying phone. Whose phone? So this one will be diagrammed like this. We have our subject, you, our verb, were, using, phone, and whose is the first word in the sentence, so we'll capitalize that, but it's an adjective. Whose phone were you using? You can see questions can be quite interesting, and you have to really think about them. Okay, our verb in this sentence, in the last sentence, may I be excused. The verb is may be. Again, notice the verb, its helping verb, are separated. And our third verb, may be excused. And our subject is I. So we would diagram it as follows. Our subject is I, and everything else are verbs. May be excused. Prepositional phrases function just like adjectives and adverbs and are placed with the preposition on a slanted line under the noun or the verb it's modifying, with the object of the preposition on a horizontal line following. Object complements are placed on the baseline following its object and are separated from the object by a slanted line, just like a subject complement. On the left here, we have a sentence with a prepositional phrase. Mother cared for her children. Our verb is cared. Our subject is mother. And the object is children. For is a preposition. And her is an adjective. Now the for and children, for her children, is a prepositional phrase, and it's modifying a verb. What did she care for? She cared for her children, so the prepositional phrase is functioning adverbally as an adverb. We diagram it. Our baseline, our bisecting line, our Subject is mother. First word in the sentence. Mother cared. And then for the prepositional phrase, we draw a slanted line for the preposition just as though it were an adverb. But since it's a prepositional phrase, it also has a noun following it, the object of the preposition. Our preposition is for. The object of the preposition is children. And which children? Her children. So her is modifying children. It's an adverb. On the right-hand side, we have a sentence with a object complement. The sentence, the class elected Eileen president. Our verb is elected. Our subject is class. Class, we assume, are all people. Elected Eileen, she's the object. And president is, I guess we'll call this a concept, just a little different here. She was elected to the office of president. And that is our object complement. The is a article modifier. We don't have a code for an article. An article is basically a weak adjective. We diagram it as follows. And we're going to have a third line here for our object complement, slanted line. Class is our subject. First word in our sentence is the article the. Our verb is elected. The object is Eileen. And our object complement is president.